Hey people! I regard the ability to read music as a very important skill which can open you many doors. I even made a whole vlog episode about this. I will put the link in the description below. Charts or lead sheets are a special form of condensed notation with which you can write a whole song on just one page or sometimes 2 pages. In order to do so, we need some special symbols and instructions. If you have never read a chart before, these symbols can seem quite mysterious. So in this video, I want to explain the most widespread, the most commonly used symbols and instructions to you, so that at the end of this video, you will be able to read and play any drum chart. Let's get right into it. At the top of most charts, you will find, of course, the title, the composer and who arranged this song and what instrument it's for. But for us, there are usually some more intricate indications which are very important. So in this case, we have a medium swing. So immediately know in which genre you are playing. Then you have the tempo instruction. So quarter note equals 144. So the quarter note is your main pulse, your main metric. And this is played in 144 beats per minute. Then you also have this indication, relaxed. So it already tells you the feel of the song, the general feel. So at one glance, you have an idea of the song. If you have no time, if you get this chart and you have to play it immediately, you know where to start, at least where to start. That's very helpful. That's the first thing you have to look at. Then another very important thing is this. Eighth notes equals triplet with a quarter note and an eighth note. This rhythm is a shuffle if repeated. So this is very widespread. You write down the eighth notes, but they are to be seen as a shuffle. This way you save a lot of space and a lot of ink, and the general image of the chart becomes a little bit cleaner. If there is a triplet in the chart, it's usually written out as a normal triplet. When you're active in swing music, big band music, where charts are usually used a lot, then you should be familiar with this. So familiar, in fact, that if a song is played in straight eighth notes, it's specifically written at the top straight eighth notes. So look for one of these indications, what's the general subdivision, and don't play straight eighth notes if it's supposed to be a shuffle or a swing. Okay, one of the most important symbols is, of course, repetition signs. You probably know these. 2 bars, 1 thick, 1 thin, and 2 dots. So you start here, when you get here, you start here again and play this once again. If there's no further indication, you just repeat it once and then you move on. Sometimes you have an indication like this, which tells you that it's to be repeated 3 times in a whole. So play it once and repeat it 2 times. You play it 3 times. And of course, the repetition sign can spread out over many bars, sometimes a whole section of a song. Here is another form of repetition sign. This is called simile. This tells you to repeat the last bar which was written out. So this is a very simple rhythm and you have to repeat it at everywhere you see this sign. This can also the 2 bars. If you have 2-bar phrase, this is the 2-bar simile. So why do we use this sign and not just put a repetition sign here and write the number of bars you're supposed to play it over here? This has 2 main reasons. The first one is you don't have to count bars. You don't have to count every measure because you can make a mistake pretty easily this way. If you write those signs, those symbols, you follow the flow of the song and you won't get lost. Usually there are some numbers here every 4 bars. There's a indication, so you have the feel of a 4-bar or 8-bar phrase and you won't get lost. But most importantly, you don't have to count every bar, you just follow along with your eyes. And the other reason is, if this is a 32-bar phrase, you won't see the structure of the song. You can't follow the structure of the song because this bar contains 32 bars and that's not very realistic. So if you follow the similes, you have an overview of the structure of the song. Now we have another form of repetition sign which is even more obscure. We have a repetition sign here, and here repetition sign under this bracket, and here's another bracket with a 1 and a 2 inside. So if you have a part of a song which repeats, but the last bar or the last couple of bars are not the same, different fills, different rests, you can use this system. So you start the repetition here and you play this bar. This is the last bar of the phrase. Then you repeat, but this time we jump over this right into the second bracket. So we have the same phrase, can be 16 bars, 32 bars long, but 2 different endings. And this bracket is open because if we jump the first one into the second one, then we move along. If you have a section of a song which comes up again later but not in the same succession, you need to jump inside the notation. And this is where this sign comes up. This is called a segno, and the word is Italian, like most instructions in classical music notation, and it just means sign. And before I explain how we use it, I want to show you another sign. This is the coda. Coda means tail, so it's usually the closing section of a song. And these two are used like this. DS stands for dal segno, go to the segno, go to this sign. So wherever in your notation you see this sign, when you read this, you immediately jump from where you're playing to, of course at the end of the bar, to this sign. And then sometimes this is added, dal segno al fine, so you play from the segno sign until the end of the whole song, or al coda. You jump to the segno and play until you see the coda sign, and then you jump into the closing section. Or another indication is da capo, you just jump to the head. Capo means head, you jump to the start of the song. And this could look like this. You play from here, you see the sign, you better memorize where it is, or you make an indication with a marker. Then you play, you see this sign, again memorize where it is, because the first time you have to ignore it, but after you played past it, it becomes activated. So you play until dal segno. Now from here, you jump to this sign and you memorize where the coda is. Now this time, often there's dal coda sometimes stands there. You jump to the closing section of the song. So these two signs are just to jump within a song, so you don't have to write out the whole section again. So those are the signs used to guide you through the song. But of course, there are many more indications. And next up is the dynamic, which means loud or soft in music. And there are usually 2 indications. The P for piano means soft, and the F for forte means loud. And the more P's you see, the softer you play, the more F's you see, the louder you play. So P means piano, double P, pianissimo, and 3 P's, pianissimo possibile. Same, forte, fortissimo, fortissimo possibile, as loud as you can. And in the middle we have mezzo piano and mezzo forte, meaning middle soft or middle loud. Also, you don't just stay loud or stay soft, you can gradually increase the volume with a crescendo, sometimes written like this, or you get softer gradually, that's a decrescendo with this sign. There are many more indications. Usually they're, as I said, in Italian, and this, for example, is ritardando, meaning you decrease the tempo. Rallentando, on the other hand, means increase the tempo. But these are the ones commonly used, and if there are some you're not familiar with, you can just look them up. Next up is the fermata. This sign, usually written above a note, and this just means hold this exact note or hold this tone. So this is usually the moment where you have to look at the conductor or the band leader to show you exactly how long you have to hold the note, and he or she will give the sign to move on or to end the song, because the fermata is often used at the end of a song where you hold the note with for the drummers with a cymbal roll or with a drum roll. If you play drums in a big band or a jazz ensemble, these indications should be familiar to you. If not, now you will learn them. They're very important. You often see this. You have this similes, so you play a basic pattern, usually a swing pattern on the right cymbal or on the hi-hat, and above it you have another set of rhythms with some more indications. This means that you keep the swing pattern or whatever groove you're playing going, and you put a second layer on top of this. Usually this is what other players in the band are playing, usually the brass section or the woodwind section. So those are the so-called kicks. And you don't have to slavishly try to play along all of these kicks, but those are just in there so you know what's going on and where the accents in the song are. You can prepare for the other musicians by working towards those accents, but also, of course, you can accent them with them together. And often you have accents, meaning those are especially loud, sometimes written like this. This point means it's a short note, so usually you would accent this with a bass drum or a snare drum, and those are longer notes with a tom or maybe a crash cymbal that should be appropriate. And sometimes you have this. This is called a slur. This means that it's a long note and you're working towards this note. And very important, because drummers are usually not used to this. If you have a slur connecting two notes, the second note is not being played. So those are not two hits on the drum or the cymbal, but this note refers to this note. So this is an anticipated one. Okay? And this slur means it's a long note and you're working towards this note, and the connected note is not being played. You connect these notes to indicate that they're long and working towards the next note. Keep in mind that the charts are just a guideline. You don't have to play every note as it's written in the notation, because sometimes those are not even written by drummers. So it's always open for interpretation. And of course, the most important tool for a musician is always the pencil. So feel free to insert your own notes or changes, because if you interpret it together with a band, you always have to make some changes to fit the song, your specific needs as a band and your goal. And you always have different instrumentations in the band. So if you know these symbols and these indications, you should be pretty well prepared for reading a chart. And of course, as with everything, you won't be a perfect chart reader right away, but you have to practice this skill as well. So at some point it will become second nature. You will get a chart, put it on your music stand and can play it right away if you practice to interpret the different indications and symbols. And then charts are a great way to write songs in a condensed way. And how to write charts on your own in a quick and easy way, I will show you in another video. The link is also below in the description, and make sure you hit subscribe and activate the bell symbol so you will get notifications when I upload a new video. And I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.